Watch the ride.
So here's the question. I have a license to ride that. Why can't I drive that? Hey everybody, hope you're all doing alright out there. So, as you may know, over the years I've made many videos to help people get onto two wheels. And I've made videos on licenses. And one of the things that comes up all the time is people thinking that they should be allowed to ride bikes on car licenses. Now, I've tried using logic and reason hundreds of times and I always get the same results. So instead I'm going to try it this way around. Why is it that I, who went through the much harder task, as people tell me it is, to get a motorcycle license than a car license, why is it that when I'm this qualified, I can't drive a car on my bike license? Because people say the same thing. They're like, well, if I've been driving a car for 30 years, then I should be allowed to ride a bike. Now, of course, my answer to this is, well, you know, it's a different type of vehicle, different controls, different wheels, different physics. You know, it's the same reason there are plane licenses and there are helicopter licenses. They both do the same thing kind of, but in a different way, and thus you need a different license. It's a different skill set, but again, people think that, as I say, that you should be able to ride one of these on a car license, so why can't I? Here's an interesting way of looking at it. Let's look at it from the perspective of auto and manual. So if you pass your test in an auto, you can only drive auto. If you pass in a manual, you can drive either, because manual is the harder one. It is accepted that passing the bike test is harder than a car test, and people complain about this no end, about how much over the top the bike tests are. So they're clearly way harder than any car test would be. You know, this is what people tell me. So on that basis, how come I can't drive a car when I can drive the thing that's harder to ride? And here's where it gets even more confusing. If you pass your car license, you can ride a quad bike. A quad bike. I have passed my full A license for motorcycles and I can't drive a quad bike. Even though it's an exposed machine, you know, you do have to lean for corners, even though you don't have the actual vehicle leaning unless something's going very wrong. It is more like a bike than it is like a car, you might say. Or you might say, well, it's even. It's kind of like a bike with four wheels. Right, well, why is it that the car drivers can drive them, but bike riders can't? It seems like the number of wheels is considered really important in this. So maybe the reason why I can't drive a car on a bike license is the fact that I am used to two wheels, not four. And maybe that's a good enough reason to give people in the future. The reason you can't drive a bike on a car license is because it has two wheels and not four, and you're not used to that. Now, before someone goes off in the comments, yes, if you passed your test before 2001, like February something I think it is, basically if you passed your test before then, you can ride a 50cc with L plates on your car license. So in theory, you can ride a motorcycle of type on a car license. You can't do that anymore, you need a CBT. But if you do that, if you do your CBT within 2 years of taking your car test now, then you get that 50cc license forever. But not the 125 side, you lose that after 2 years. And also, technically, I can drive four-wheeled machines because I can drive microcars on my bike license. But that's not the point. As I say, I think you can tell I'm being rather facetious in this, but it's interesting when you turn the tables rather than try and use logic with people. You know, as I say, so many people will tell me that the bike licenses should be easier because they're so difficult. But very often those changes seem to be in step with who they are. Like, I'm surprised no one said, well, I think anyone called Steve should just be able to ride bikes without passing a license. Is your name Steve? Yes, it is. What was one I heard yesterday? Oh, if you pass the CBT, you should be able to ride A2 bikes on L plates, and if you pass your A2, you should be able to ride A bikes on L plates. Honestly, the amount of people that come up with all these crazy ideas about what we should or shouldn't be allowed to do, they're all people that haven't passed the test and are either struggling with it or don't want to go up against it. You know, for the same reason that people make out that, well, the motorcycle test is just so difficult, what's the point of even trying? No, you're just hiding behind fear. Now, out of sheer interest, I asked Grok, as in an AI, what it thought about this, and it gave some very human answers, you know, talking about how you have to balance a bike, how you're exposed to the elements, how you have to deal with more coordination because obviously you've got controls for both hands and feet that are all different. there's also the increased risk and all those sorts of things. It also gave a very human answer that I was very impressed by, which was, it was like, at the end of the day, most countries have a separate test for motorcycles and cars, and there's going to be a reason for that. And of course, that is the truth of it. The reason there is different tests is because there are different skills required to use these things. Or someone else recently said to me, if you can ride a push bike confidently, then you can ride any motorcycle. It's easy. Alright, in today's society, it seems like people have completely forgotten that experience means something. Hey, it's 2025. This is the world we live in. We can argue about anything, no matter whether we know what we're talking about or not, or whether it's based in truth or not. We can just scream at each other and think that we're hard done by and everyone else is better off. There's another important thing to note here, which is that when you pass the CBT, you get a 125, and a 125 has around 100 horsepower per tonne, which is about the same as a small hatchback, right? And a decent sports bike, like, you know, a headliner sports bike, has got about 1,000 horsepower per tonne, which is about the same as a supercar. So again, there's another thing you've got to think about here. People who get normal everyday cars, who passed, you know, to drive that, think that they'd love to jump onto a motorcycle, which is a different kind of vehicle to what they're used to, and do it with the equivalent power of, like, you know, a supercar, almost a Veyron. This is the ridiculousness of it. People don't realise just how much more powerful and faster bikes are and how much more skills required with them. Oh look, seagulls. Don't let this sunny weather fool you. It is freezing today. Let me know what you think about all this. You know, it's the age-old thing of why can't I ride a bike on my car licence, reversed, obviously. But I've realised it's just something I've never heard. I've heard loads of people saying, why can't I ride a bike on a car licence? But I've never ever heard anyone say, why can't I drive a car on a bike licence? And I feel like I know why that is, and it makes sense. But, you know, as I say, like it if you liked it, subscribe if you're new here. Huge thanks to my supporters who go up at the end of the video on the screen. You can do that through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.